Hey, what the vet fam? Welcome to another episode. On this week's episode, you're going to have to excuse me. I may have random coughing attacks. It's just the gift that keeps on giving for me with this sickness. So then we're just going to begin. We are going to be talking about, and then my hands smell like onions, and I'm having a really hard time this Sunday. It's just a really bad time. We are talking about cold weather and your pets. So we're going to primarily focus on dogs, cats, and horses on this week's episode. And I brought it up on the Tickety Talk because yesterday in North Carolina, we had sunny temperatures with a high of 55 to 60-degree range to a massive drop with a wind chill of about the 5-10 degrees, depending on where you're at. Colder up where my horse lives versus where I'm at because he's higher up on the mountainside. And so I wanted to know what people were doing in terms of their animals being in the outdoors, right? So when I knew earlier in the week that it was going to be cold, they predicted it to be in the 30s on Sunday. Excuse me. And so my thought process at the time was going to be I will still go to the barn, like lightly lunge him, which is just working him on the ground, and see how he handles it. Because for people that don't know, my horse is Florida bred and raised. So this is his third winter of his life, of true, like, cold temperatures. And I've never worked him in 30 degrees. My background is I was born and raised in Indiana. We see these temperatures, right? You know, we have snow, we get lake effect snow, wind chill, blizzards, the whole nine yards in the Midwest. And so the rule of thumb when I was riding there that if it was 10 degrees or lower, you don't ride. I had lessons on 12 degrees. I mean, we didn't work the horses hard in any way, shape, or form. They were worked lightly, but you were still out there yourself dealing with it, right? And so, but also I was a teenager and I didn't care. And so now that I am now 39 years old, I care a little bit more about the colder temperatures. And I had even put in a clip of what the barn looked like in the morning when I reached out to the barn manager, and it was just gusting snow, right? And the horses were out in it. They're fine. They're blanketed. She was keeping an eye on them, and they have as much hay as they could possibly want. And that's how horses keep warm is they eat all the time, and their guts produce heat, keeps them warm. And, you know, Red has about 3 blankets on, so he's not cold. And so I had reached out and wanted to know what people's thoughts and feelings were on working their animals in the outside world in the cold. How cold is it in Florida right now, Amber? Oh, sorry. I didn't expect to talk that long.
It was 76 degrees today. It was
Oh, fuck
beautiful.
off. Sorry,
Absolutely.
Grandma. Sorry, Amber's grandma, but fuck off.
It was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's gonna get cold tomorrow, but like a high of 60 something. But
I mean, I remember those temperatures. I was there for it for 16 years. I bought myself a heated jacket this year. I wore that thing outside all day today when I was out getting groceries and that, and it was 10 out of 10, worth every dollar that I spent.
there you go. I walked in board shorts, flip flops today.
That's nice. That's just lovely.
Uh-huh. Listen, I love the cold in the morning, and then I like for it to warm up in the afternoon. You know what I mean? Or like on the weekends, it can be chilly. I can open my windows and light my candles. But I can't do the snow and the ice anymore.
It's
I can't.
it was a little rough. I forgot that cold wind. You know what I mean? Like it just like bites you in the face because I didn't have anything on my face or my hands, and I was pumping gas, and that was a 10 out of 10 the worst.
Yeah. For 6 years in the Midwest, I would never do that again. And it rearranged my face. So anyway,
Sorry, sexy over here, guys. So let's talk minimal, moderate, and like dangerous temperatures in dogs who, on the scale of the three animals I listed earlier, is like the mid ground for tolerating the cold, right? Cats tolerate the least, horse tolerates it better. So 45 degrees and above, dogs outside, they're okay as long as it's not dry, windy, as long as it's dry. If it's windy and wet, they need shelter. It's gonna be shelter. So minimal risk for that. 32 to 45 degrees, safe for most dogs, but if they're smaller and shorter hair, they don't have such denseness. You need to up the game. And we'll talk about what does and doesn't qualify as up the game for cats and dogs when it comes to shelter, because that also makes me mad and has made me mad since I was a kid in Indiana. Because once we get to 20 degrees, like 20 degrees and lower, it's you need booties, you need coats. Their feet are only going to take so much of being outside at all times. And mind you, I understand people's thought processes when they have dogs that live outside and cats that live outside, right? It serves a purpose. But if we're going to have them out in like 20 degrees or lower, we have to do right by them. They need appropriate shelter and appropriate bedding in the shelter. Those plastic kennels, not it, my guy. They do absolutely nothing. You think you're doing something right, but you're not. It is causing more harm than good, both in the summer and the winter time. It makes it colder and it makes it hotter inside. Blankets, people think blankets are fine. That's actually fake news as well. The only recommendation that people really make is straw because it holds the heat. Not hay, just straw, and it has to be at least 6 inches. And also, people think that they need these big houses outside. They don't. They need as small as possible, and they need it to where they be able to stand up, turn around, and lay tightly. That's the whole point, is that they have to lay tightly, because if the bigger the house is, the more heat escapes from their body, because you're using that shelter that is supposed to be insulated to keep the heat in. And if you have dogs that are destructive and you can't have like those plastic flaps as like a wind divider, then point it to where the wind blows the least is your best bet, because I know some dogs just tear them off and think it's the best toy in the whole entire world. Excuse me. I felt a coughing attack coming, but it's okay. Cats, obviously, like they make special housings now for cats that are actually heated, because and we're not talking the animals that live in Alaska. Those are a different breed.
Yeah, I was like, the fried dogs, like they run.
Yeah. Alaska, my guy, you guys are not involved in this discussion because your animals are built different. They're built different. This is for the lower 48 states. They're built different. Because like once you get 20 degrees and your dogs are outside working, I don't know about you, Amber, you at least know what that feels like. And remember, would you want to go run outside in 20 degrees?
I don't. I would not ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
I used to have to do that.
Yeah. And so it's hard to ask our dogs to do that, or cats to do that, or horses to do that, right? I'm so sorry.
It gets to a point to where it's hard. Obviously, you're experiencing those issues right now, but it's hard to breathe when it's that cold outside and you're trying to run. It's a struggle.
My last winter and the winter before, I worked red when it was 38 and above, because if I can tolerate it in like a dense sweatshirt and like, windproof vest thing that I would wear, then I knew that he would be okay if I did things lightly. So this was going to be like a first test to see how we did, because, in my mind, I'm prepping for our next move, right, to Colorado. It can get a little colder than it does in North Carolina. So I was like, okay, let's see how this plays out. But like, I looked at the temperature first thing in the morning and I went, that's cute, Joyce. That idea was cute. We're not going to do it today. Which ironically, Colorado is having the same issues we are, which they were 48 degrees yesterday, and they're normally not that warm. Global warming, people. Global warming. It's real.
No, it's even though, you have some of these animals that are built for this certain types of weather, certain degrees of frigid cold and things like that, their bodies still experience unfortunate reactions to those temperatures, especially like prolonged exposure, things like hypothermia are a thing. Yeah, they're animals, they're sometimes used to being outside, things like that. Like I mentioned before, the coats that they have, but prolonged exposure can cause a lot of issues. It can cause, if their feet aren't protected, their ears, your short-haired dogs, like their belly, the skin on their belly and things like that. But they lose quite a bit of heat as hypothermia sets in, and a lot of things physiologically go wrong and start to happen in their body and can cause sometimes irreparable damage. And it's a very slow, painful, excruciating way for them to pass. I mean, you see these ASPCA commercials or Humane Society commercials with these animals out on chains in improper housing, much like you've mentioned, to where, they're shivering, and there are some that they don't make it to in time because the temperature drops so low so fast, and they don't have the shelter that they need. They don't have, the straw to lay in to be able to keep their body temperature up and things like that. So these are things that we really need to be cognizant of. And God, he's fuzzy, he'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and one thing to also remember is if your pet lives outside, they need more calories just to exist outside, right? They need 30 to 40% more caloric intake during the wintertime than they do any other time because they are burning calories more just to stay warm. Horses have all the hay that they want if they're going to be outside. Red has, like, I think a month and a half ago, we had already started upping his grain intake for the winter in prelude to the fact that he's going to drop weight. Because the Farmer's Almanac, whether or not you believe it or not, I am a believer of the Farmer's Almanac, was predicting weather like this, warmer, wetter, colder, fluctuating back and forth, right? So we were prepping for that. To the people that are going to say you should never have your pets outside, I am a farmer's daughter. Our pets lived outside up until I was 12 years old and my dad died. And Indiana, cold weather, we made them shelter. It was in appropriate shelter. They had straw, they had food, but they lived outside because that was our norm. They were working dogs. They protected the herd of the sheep that we had. The sheep had shelter. They had hay. They had all the things, and we had barn cats that also lived outside that we made sure had food and water, appropriate measures. So, like I said in the beginning, I get both sides. I get why people have dogs outside and why dogs are inside. But like, we had a Doberman live outside in the wintertime. And there were times where she did not come out of her house because it was too cold for her. She was like, absolutely not, I'm not doing it. And she would like look at us outside and be like, hey, I'm going back in here now, and would go and burrow underneath the straw where it was warmer. Yeah. So try not to be judgy Judy's, because I was also one of them. Allie Dog would not survive outside. She would not. No.
No, neither would Brick.
No.
If it's 40-something degrees outside, he's got to have his hoodie on to go outside. He will go do his business, and his fat ass will bring me right back inside. Like, nah, bro.
Like, that's it.
Not doing it. Yep, get his ass up underneath the comforter and like under the pillows, like, and shiver like he was abused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I left him outside for 12 hours. But to different climates, like over, many generations, to where you think of, if a dog, a wolf, okay, whatever you believe, I don't care. But like, they've gone from being outside in these conditions to adapting to being
house dogs,
to being princesses with their little hoodies and their blankets and their little snuggies and their onesies, and they don't have the capacity to live outside anymore. Some do.
Because they're not wolves anymore. They are domesticated dogs.
No, they're just babies.
I hate that when people say, well, they're derived from wolves. Yeah, thousands and thousands of years ago. They're no longer a wolf.
Yeah.
A Chihuahua is not a wolf.
No, that thing will turn into a popsicle before you know it,
Yeah, so
walk outside and like,
that's one of the few things that I will die on a hill is dogs are not wolves anymore. And don't get me started on the raw food diet. One day we will talk about it, but it's not today. Yeah. But also, I want to throw in there, rabbits are a 10 out of 10 in cold weather. -32, just fine. Goats below 40 degrees, they're out. They hate the cold. And chickens are cold tolerant if dry, but they frostbite 10 degrees and lower. For the people that have the other pets of those varieties, I didn't know about the goat.
Goats.
Which we do have goats at the barn, but they have their own shelters, in place. So signs for the cold, I'm going to read these off because I actually forgot some of these. Shivering and lifting individual paws to give the paws a break on the ground. And this goes for rabbits, cats, dogs, anything that's not hoofed. Slowed movement or stiffness, whining, anxiety, huddling, pale ears, tails, toes. That's actually big indicates of frostbite coming on. And lethargy and confusion. Those are like the two big ones that your pet is like in danger and you need to slowly warm them up because their body has gone below to hypothermic. And like if you
Yeah.
warm them
So
up,
what's
and if you warm them up too fast, they can also go into shock. Same with humans. Think of it like that.
Yeah. So look, can we explain to our viewers what a normal temperature is
So
in a dog or a cat?
so for dogs and cats, rule of thumb is 99.9 to 102.5. They have that range. And so like if you see a dog with a temperature of 90, they're in danger. They are in danger at 90 degrees. Just
Yeah.
flat out. And you need to do warming measures, but again, you have to do it slowly. You can't just like shock them in hot water. It's the same with us. It feels like they are on fire in just going into a warm room, right? So you have to do it hour by hour, slowly raise the temperatures. And it's the same for dogs and cats. On the temperature wise, just rule of thumb. Some places that you read will give slightly different, but 99.9, 102 for dogs and cats.
Yeah. And when that temperature starts to drop that low, there's a lot that happens in the body that you may not necessarily be observing, but you'll see the lethargy, the breath, the respiratory rate, things like that increase. But the things that are happening on the inside, like bradycardia, the metabolism decreases, reducing energy production. They're lethargic, they're confused, poor coordination, weakness, their muscles start to stiffen,
Yeah.
their blood pressure drops, kidney and liver function deteriorate. And a lot of these things, when you talk about kidney and liver function and your cardiac, things like that, some of that stuff can
Be permanent.
kill them, right? But be able to set something that's going to be irreparable. Is that going to be lifelong issues or anything like that? But like I said before, when they're going through something such as hypothermia, it is excruciating
It
for
feels
the animals
like you are on fire. And
Yeah.
say their paws are borderline danger of getting frostbite, right? So we're going to use paws. And as feeling starts to come off, don't be surprised if they're going to start gnawing at their paw because it gets so tingly and painful. They're trying to make it stop. And the only way they know, in the best case, is like when people hear coyotes gnawing off their leg. Pets will do it too when they get feeling back in from being so cold. So you have to prevent that as well. And I've actually seen that in a case at a hospital before where the pet was trying to gnaw off its paw from getting feeling back in. And then they brought it into us because they were doing the warming measures, but then like he had chewed off several digits.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like within hours, like right away. He was like, "Ah, ah, 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 ah," and then they rushed him in. The cold
insane,
is
but
no
like
joke.
bottom No, it's no joke. But like bottom line, when you have those breeds that are built for that weather, that like when you see these TikToks or these big huskies and stuff like that chilling outside when they don't want to come inside,
Those
cool.
are different breeds.
Leave them be till they are ready. Let them enjoy the cold. If that's what they want to do. They want to play in the snow. Be responsible about it. Obviously, protect their feet, this, that, and the other. Let them do their thing. Let them enjoy the weather that they were bred for, right? Not like bringing a Saint Bernard or a husky to Florida.
But that's
But
a
anyway.
different. We'll do a different one on that. Don't worry.
That's a different one. Let them, I'm not saying don't let them enjoy the weather. By all means do, but be responsible about it, Don't leave your German short-haired pointer or your pit bull outside on a tow truck chain with a paper-thin, kennel without the proper, I don't want to say bedding, but you know what I mean, but without the proper bedding in there when it's like negative degrees outside, when it's, anything below 32 degrees or something like that, when it's at the freezing point.
31 degrees and down is freezing and snow.
Yeah, be responsible about it, If you have outdoor dogs and they're your herd protectors or part of your farm, things like that, just make sure that they've got adequate shelter, that they've got access to fresh food and water, because the caloric intake needs to be increased. They need to be able to produce energy to keep their body warm so they can thermoregulate appropriately, and that those cold temperatures don't take over and cause more of a fight for their body. But don't be an asshole, dude. Be responsible. Take care of your pet. Do your research and make sure that they're adequately cared for in extreme temperatures.
Yeah, and then people that say blankets are fine, I'm going to bring up the people in Alaska, right? You look at the sled dogs that are out in negative 32 degrees, right? They're in a wood shelter, wooden, typically A-frame, but a lot of them like to stay on top of their shelters. Excuse me. But what's inside? They put so much straw in their housing, and I can't stress the straw enough because that's what's going to keep them the most warm. Because what happens when that blanket gets wet? from the snow being tracked in, the house gets warm, snow melts, that blanket absorbs it. Now they're laying on a wet blanket that's going to freeze and make them colder. Whereas the straw
And it's
will absorb it, bring it down,
Yep.
and not freeze and keep them dry. So,
Yeah.
again, I know we all like to give our pets blankets and that, but on the outside world, in the cold, straw is your friend.
Yeah. And you even too, like when you look up things like the Best Friends Animal Society, like their community cat program and things like that, they will
Straw.
tell you how to make shelter
Yes.
for your outdoor cats. And
Yes, and you can make your own, like, people that have stray cats in the neighborhood and it's getting really cold. There's so many DIY stuff, YouTube, TikTok, on how to make appropriate shelters for the feral cats outside. I also believe that they
Yeah.
should be able to find warm places to hide that isn't cars,
yes,
And so there's a lot like of just taking random things at Walmart that aren't expensive and making it an appropriate shelter for the cats.
I mean, you can go to Goodwill, you can go to Salvation Army, and you can find those storage totes, and you can
Yeah.
actually create pretty outfits for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
We did that a lot in the shelter for the Best Friends program. Is we would take those totes
Yeah.
and we would cut holes in it, like little doors and stuff in them, and then like shove them with the hay and make sure they had fresh food and water, so they had somewhere warm to be.
Yep. And some get really fancy with the heat lamps and things like that. But yeah, there's plenty of tutorials if you wanted to make something for the feral cats out there as well. But yeah, guys, until next time, please like, comment, share, do all the things.
Let us know if there's something that you'd like to talk about. Like, we need more topics. We need more funny stuff. We need some more Am I the Asshole stories.
Yes, we've yet to get, besides Amber's Am I the Asshole story. And Amber, if it was just a little bit longer, we'd be able to turn that into a podcast.
I would like to introduce a new one. Should I be the asshole?
Ooh. Should I be the asshole? Yes.
Be the asshole. Might lose my job over that one, but
we'll talk afterwards on how to make
like
that not be a problem.
Yeah. That should be like episodes, like, once a month, or, we could just, am I the asshole and should I be the asshole? I like it.
We're going to start. Listen, we're going to find some people to finally tell us some stories. Listen, you just tell me the story and I can turn it into that style where names are removed and things like that. We like the tea.
Yeah. All of it.
Do I say hi? Oh, you're going to hit your head. Come here. Come say hi. Allie Dog says hi. She hasn't said hi in the past couple of episodes because she's been laying on the electric blanket. Yes, my dog has an electric blanket because it's been, and I had to buy my own electric blanket because she has decided that she will not share the one that I got for all of us. So I had to buy a new one. But yeah, guys, until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Stay warm. Keep your pet. Bye.